Next I'm going to ask to call up the middle bill, if you don't mind.
Senate Bill 209 by Senator Shelnut.
And Representative Bose is going to stay there. I'm going to let her introduce your bill real quickly, if you don't mind.
Go ahead on mine.
And then I'm
Okay.
going to
Sorry.
explain how our public hearing's going to work. We've got to be out of this committee before 3 because another committee's in here. So therefore, everybody's going to get 1 minute while she's explaining her bill. That's going to let you kind of have time to think about what you have to say. And so I'll call on Representative DuBose.
Yes, thank you. I'm here to introduce Sex Ed Bill 209, which was passed out of the Senate by Shay Shelnut. This bill also passed off the House floor 2 years ago. And I'm going to give a brief explanation because I've actually had some of our committee members ask that I do that, but I will be brief. This bill maintains abstinence-based instruction. The terminology is now sexual risk avoidance. And most importantly, in lines 202 to 209, regarding outside organizations teaching curriculum, school boards may not use the services of an organization that does not endorse sexual risk avoidance or provides abortions or abortion referrals, abortion funding, or advocacy, or any other support for abortions. The local boards of eds often use outside experts to teach sex ed, and there are many excellent nonprofit programs with medical experts to teach according to our guidelines, and we have many of them here today. Also importantly, parents will have a 14-day notice to review the entire sex ed curriculum and opt their child out if they choose to. Important clarifications and additions. This is not a ban on teaching or discussion, contraception, HIV, or STD. These, in fact, are actually required to be taught. Now, conversations regarding demonstrations of contraceptions are not allowed, or any conversations that misrepresent the efficacy of contraception. And if you want to see the photos provided on your desk, you can understand what it looks like to demonstrate certain contraceptive devices and understand why we don't want those taught to 12, 13, or 14-year-olds. Some of the other information added to update the bill includes changes in technology and laws. For example, our bill now includes medically accurate information of abortion and the abortion law in Alabama. We talk about the process of infant adoption and the process of surrendering a baby under Alabama's safe haven law. We talk about how to identify and avoid unhealthy relationships, including factors predictive of physical, emotional, or sexual abuse and exploitations. That's on lines 152 to 156. Knowledge and skills to resist cyberbullying, sexting, pornography, and online sexual predators. These are all important new concepts that need to be added, and the implications of participating in sexting. That's in lines 157 to 161. And then on line 171, we talk about the success sequence, which we passed unanimously out of this committee last year. That is finish high school, get a job, and get married before having a baby, all based on statistics. These all lead to a successful life and is now provided to be taught in Alabama code. And on line 178, medically sound information relating to fetal growth and development, maternal health, and infant health. One of the opponents of this bill handed me a postcard yesterday that sadly represents the misunderstanding of this bill and the need for HB 209. This note said SB 209 would keep high schoolers in the dark about their bodies and how to navigate relationships and make informed decisions. And the spread of she said STI, maybe that's the same as STD, and unwanted pregnancies. This bill is exactly the opposite, and in fact would give medically accurate information to high school students as I have highlighted line by line above. So that's my opening statement, and I'll answer any questions after the public hearing.
Thank you very much. We're going to open the public hearing. Everyone's going to have 1 minute, and we're going to start with a proponent, and it's Stella Robinson.
Good morning. I would like to start by saying thank you, Education Committee representatives, for the work you do for our schools in Alabama. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my experience and thoughts. I attend public school in Alabama. When I was 11 years old and in the 5th grade, a letter was sent home regarding sex education. Parents were only to sign if they did not want their child to participate. Many letters didn't make it home, I'm sure. My mom called the school to see exactly what would be taught and shared, exactly what would be shared and talked about. While no specifics were mentioned, my mom was ensured it would be age appropriate. The day of the talk, kids were divided, girls go into classrooms, boys go to the gym. We were taught how to put a condom on a banana and how you can turn transgender with surgeries. These lessons made me feel uncomfortable and should not be taught in elementary school. I feel kids should be learning how to have a healthy relationship and what a healthy and happy family looks like.
Thank you, Stella. I appreciate it very much. Yeah. Appreciate you telling your story. Next, I'm going to call Susan Stewart, an opponent.
I'm Susan Stewart from Huntsville, RNBSN. As a nurse, I learned to evaluate the quality of medical research. Many of the false claims about the benefits of abstinence only, now rebranded as sexual risk avoidance, and the harms of comprehensive sex education originate from the American College of Pediatricians, a tiny fringe group with a religious agenda masquerading as a legitimate medical organization. It has been designated a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Overwhelming evidence shows that abstinence-only education does not reduce risky behavior by teenagers. It increases the rate of STIs, those are sexually transmitted infections, the medically accurate term, and promotes feelings of shame about sex. Comprehensive sex education includes teaching the benefits of abstinence, actually delays sexual activity in teenagers, and they are more likely to use contraceptives when they do have sex. Let's follow the advice of the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatricians, who say that sexual risk avoidance education does not prepare our children to make physically and mentally, emotionally healthy choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Next, I'm going to call up Becky Garrettson, and she is a proponent.
Good afternoon. I'm Becky Garrettson with Eagle Forum. This issue basically boils down to two types of sex education. One is comprehensive sex ed, also called sexual risk reduction. I have an example of comprehensive sex ed lessons that are taught to students ages 12 to 14. Federal grants in Alabama have been awarded to some counties to teach this. One of the lessons is called How to Make Condoms Pleasurable. It's for middle schoolers 12 to 14 years old. Here are some of the suggested answers to sex is more fun when condoms are used because you can use condoms as a method of foreplay. You can think of a sexual fantasy while using a condom. You can tease each other sexually while putting on a condom. You can have fun putting one on your partner while pretending you're different people or in different situations. I've also provided you a picture of the condom game where students are given images and asked to put them in order. This is comprehensive sex ed. It's promiscuity, not prevention. In contrast, SB209 protects students from inappropriate material like this. This bill promotes sexual risk avoidance, which is a holistic, factual, science-based program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garrettson. Next, I'll call Elizabeth Torrance. She's an opponent.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your time today. I am here as an opponent of SB209 because this bill is not only counterintuitive, it is dangerous to the health and well-being of Alabamian younger people. Right now, there are over 16,000 people living with HIV, and only 593 of those individuals were newly diagnosed in 2025. These are not just numbers. They are representatives of our neighbors, our friends, and our families and community members. Each diagnosis is preventable with the right education, tools, and support. Public health, we do not respond to crisis by withholding information. We respond by educating and preventing and equipping people with the tools that work. This bill does not protect young people. It leaves them unprepared, and it does not reduce the risk, it increases it, and it reflects the realities that young people face today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Torrance. Next, Sawyer Carter as a proponent.
Good afternoon, judges.
of Representatives. My name is Sawyer Carter, and I'm a 7th grade student at the University Charter School in Livingston, Alabama. Earlier this year, I was taught an SRA curriculum. I learned how to set healthy boundaries for myself and how to stay safe on social media, and how to say no when I do not want to do something. I also learned about the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships. I also learned about the risks of engaging in sexual activities before marriage. Everything I learned from the SRA curriculum will help me make better decisions for my future. I'm asking you to vote yes to help keep me and other kids safe in Alabama. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for speaking with us today, Sawyer. Next, I'll call Mary Elizabeth Marr. She's an opponent.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Mary Elizabeth Marr, CEO of Thrive Alabama, a healthcare organization that does take care of people living with HIV, among other ailments. In 1984, first case of HIV in Alabama. 1988, the AIDS Action Coalition opened in Huntsville, which is now the Thrive Alabama. Preliminary numbers, cumulative numbers, are 25,930 in Alabama of HIV and AIDS, and that is last March. At Thrive, as well as across the state, we are seeing a growth in children 13 to 29 years of age with HIV. Why? Lack of awareness, feeling of invulnerability, lack of proper scientific education. At our clinic, our youngest patient is 16 who has HIV. There are forms of prevention, abstinence, of course, being number one, 100%, but there are other forms of prevention, such as barriers, medication, called PrEP. Please help the children of our state to give them scientific information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Marr. Next, I'll call a proponent, Joy Wassel.
Thank you for your time, committee members. I'm Joy Wassel from Hartselle, Alabama, and I'm the founder of a sexual risk avoidance education program serving students in public and private schools across Tennessee and Alabama. Youth who choose to be sexually abstinent statistically have grades that are higher in school, greater success in college, greater and healthier marriages, and are future-focused and oriented, and have zero exposure to the harmful and negative consequences of sexual activity during their adolescent years. The opponents of this falsely assumes that students from certain demographics either cannot learn new concepts or, worse, don't deserve to have access to optimal health education. Sexual risk avoidance education teaches the vital life skills of self-regulation, delayed gratification, and making choices today that lead to your success in the future. All across the state of Alabama, educational organizations serve in the public schools, teaching SRA programs to over 30,000 students. From Mobile to Montgomery, Boaz to Birmingham, Hartselle and Athens, and every part of the state has access to medically accurate sexual risk avoidance education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Wassel. I think I have this name right. Is it Shantae Wolf? If I didn't, please correct me.
Shantae Wolf, Policy Director, WAWC Healthcare. Chair, members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. Normally, this is where I'd walk through the research, talk about data on teen pregnancy, public health outcomes, and what we know works best when young people have access to accurate information. But the reality is, you've heard these facts before. Every year, we come back to the same version of a similar debate, and the same evidence is presented, and every year we do it again. So instead, I want to talk about time. Every minute this legislature spends debating bills like Senate Bill 209 is time we're not spending on the issues people back home are depending on us to fix. People like you all, respected legislators, and myself, like policy directors that go home and talk to constituents in different ways. Right now, our focus should be on strengthening the economy and making Alabama a place where businesses want to invest and families to stay. Bills like this don't create jobs. They don't raise wages, and they don't make our state more competitive. For those reasons, I respectfully ask that you vote no on SB209. And at the end of the day, if we are only promoting one style of education, that does not give our children a fair shot, especially if it's not medically accurate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. As a proponent, I call Jason Mann.
All right, so California, since 2016, mandated comprehensive sex ed across their entire state, mandatory for all schools. Right now, they have the highest prevalence of HIV in the nation. According to the National Library of Medicine, prevention in health involves intervening to avoid disease. Primary prevention aims to reduce the risk of disease before it begins by targeting modifiable risk behaviors in individuals who are still healthy. They cite research that showed that there was an 80% drop in cardiovascular disease when proper education and lifestyle adjustments were given. That's modifiable behavior. As we discuss teen risk behaviors, alcohol, drugs, smoking, vaping, violence, bullying, etc., we have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to those risk behaviors because we understand the risks are inherent and they're dangerous. Why don't we approach sex the same way? We should be having a zero tolerance conversation that the risks are too high. And abstinence is 100% effective, as one of the opponents mentioned, but we still have to make sure they understand the risk involved, even when contraceptives were in place. So truthful information about contraceptives needs to be taught, and SRA teaches that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Next, as an opponent, I call Courtney Rourke.
Hi, committee members. I'm going to read testimony on behalf of one of our young people who can't be here because she's working. My name is Deeksha Hanamalala. I am a current Master of Public Health student and an inspiring physician at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. I'm writing today on behalf of the young people and students of the state of Alabama to respectfully urge you to stop SB209. This bill is not what young voices want, nor is it what is best for us in regard to our health and futures. While abstinence can certainly be discussed as one method of preventing pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections, mandating abstinence-only ed ignores decades of public health research and removes access to medically accurate, evidence-based sexual health education that protects young people. As it stands, Alabama has the 7th highest teen pregnancy rate. This is important. Birth rate, teen birth rate. In the 3rd highest for chlamydia and gonorrhea in the nation. Please vote no.
Thank you, Ms. Rourke. Next, I'll call a proponent, Monica Williams.
Hello, committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak today on the benefits of sexual risk avoidance, otherwise known as SRA, which encourages delaying sexual activity until marriage. First, SRA encourages emotional clarity. Relationships can become complicated when physical intimacy enters too early. By choosing to wait, individuals are better able to evaluate compatibility based on character, values, communication, and mutual respect. Second, SRA promotes self-discipline and self-respect. Choosing to wait is not about fear or restriction, it's about intentionality. There are also clear physical and mental health benefits. SRA eliminates the risk of sexually transmitted infections and unplanned pregnancies, and it can reduce anxiety, guilt, or emotional stress that sometimes follows casual sexual relationships. Finally, SRA can deepen intimacy when it truly matters. When physical intimacy is shared within a committed, lifelong partnership, it often carries greater meaning, trust, and security. It becomes an expression of love and commitment rather than uncertainty or pressure. In a culture that often rushes intimacy, delaying sexual activity until marriage is a countercultural act of confidence and purpose. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Next, I'll call Gary Wright II.
Good afternoon to the chair and to the members of the Education Policy Committee. My name is Gary Wright. I'm a resident of Montgomery, and I grew up and was raised in Alabama. I went to Alabama public school systems, and the sex education I received when I was in school totally failed us. As the previous speaker says, Alabama has one of the highest pregnancy and birth rates in the nation. We also have one of the highest rates of STI infections. What I want is sex ed that's comprehensive, that's medically accurate, age appropriate, and also inclusive. I do support sexual risk avoidance, but I'm worried more about what this bill leaves out than what is in it. We want them to know not only how to protect themselves, but high schoolers report that over 40% of them are already sexually active. I want them to know how to not only learn about contraceptives, but how to get them. And I don't see that in this bill. It looks like that's prohibited. They also need to know about the latest drugs. We have PEP, and we also have PrEP. We also have doxyprep, which helps prevent the infections sort of like a morning after if you are exposed. I want it to be medically accurate, but I want it to also be inclusive to LGBTQIA citizens who represent over 10% of our population. So everyone needs the information they need to protect ourselves and protect our society. For those reasons, I oppose SB209, and I hope you'll vote against it and give us our kids. Hope you give our kids something better than what they deserve. Thank you.
Next, I'll call Beth Pruitt.
Good afternoon, representatives. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I am Beth Pruitt. I'm a longtime resident of Pelham, Alabama, and I have done SRA education in public schools in the greater Birmingham area for over 12 years. I just want to combat the false narrative that, again, that SRA does not cover important topics, medically correct information. My personal program emphasizes STD so much. I think I told this a few years ago here in this room. I'm referred to as the STD lady and have to give totally accurate information from the CDC to all my students. We also cover contraceptives. We talk about birth control, what those items are, how they work, but also how they don't work, what they don't do, so that all students have all the information they need. And as Joy kind of referenced, look, every student in Alabama deserves the opportunity to have this information, to get factually accurate, correct medical information. I agree with that, and this is the best way to do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And lastly, we'll call Brian Bristol.
Good afternoon. Thank you for all that you do, Mr. Chairman and committee members. So I'm coming from a different way. I don't want Alabama to become the next California. So I was raised, born, educated in California, all the way from bachelor's, master's, doctorate degree, and I was involved in education for 36 years. Went from teacher to superintendent of a couple different districts, even taught adjunct at a couple of schools, colleges, and I want to let you know that I saw a slippery slope and a huge decline from 1986 till I retired a few years ago and then was brought out here. There, I saw higher promiscuity, higher pregnancy rates, and higher issues among families, which led to higher stress on the educational system. I found we spent more time in education trying to deal with all these things that came up rather than trying to do the things that we were there to do for educators and education. The impetus, I believe, was the false information, the lies, the inculcated into the educational system, specifically into the health framework, that led to a slow deterioration of that educational system. In my professional opinion, SB209 is the cornerstone Alabama needs. Keep Alabama educational system from sliding down that slippery slope. Do for the truth what others are doing for a lie.
Thank you, Mr. Bristol. That concludes our public hearing. We have about 4 minutes to talk about this. If you've got a question for someone that spoke, this would probably be the best time since today's a public hearing, or if you have a question for the sponsor. Representative Baker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, I guess, maybe reiterate a couple of points I think that you've already mentioned as you introduced the bill and such, and that is that, so this goes beyond, although sexual risk avoidance is a primary focus, but there are other aspects that are part of the sex education curriculum and such. So you've identified that.
Yes,
I think
in
sometimes
fact, they're
there's been a
required to be taught.
put on that there's not such, and of course we know differently what's in the bill on that. The other is that this allows for then the opt-in or opt-out then for the parents, because the notification 14 days in advance of the curriculum in its entirety, which does mention that specifically in the bill and such. So it's where the parent does get to make that choice if they so choose, I mean, for the interest of their child.
Absolutely.
On
That's an
that.
important
So
part of the
I
bill.
just wanted to identify that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Are there any other questions? Representative Pascal.
Madam Chair, due to the amount of time left in the session, are we going to vote on this today?
I'm not planning on voting on it because we had a public hearing today and some of our members have left because of that. Okay. And so, but we will vote on this next week.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Are there any other questions? Well, I want to thank everybody for coming and sharing at the public hearing very much. Thank you for being here. And with that, we adjourn.